Hey, what is going on, everybody? It is Blue, and we are back with another video. I just got done watching one of Preach's videos where he went over and said, hey, you know what, Simulation Craft, they provided this really neat data about kind of what damage is looking like single target. And obviously you can see here we have a pre-raid and we have kind of just maxed out level. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking those with the Feral mindset, and we're going to be trying to make some assumptions. Hey, how Feral is doing and how Feral will perform in the future. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Take it easy. Peace.
Blue, you're my boy!
Alright, so we're going to go ahead and jump into it. We're going to look at the pre-raid because I haven't checked out this before. Okay, great. Yeah, as you can see, Feral is doing very well. I think a lot of us already know that Feral is doing exceptionally well. What is very important to say here is that historically, Feral has been a spec that does poorly at the beginning of the expansion. The reason Feral generally does very poorly at the beginning of the expansion is we are actually one of the specs that is very gear dependent. We rely very heavily on critical strike. The more critical strike we have, the smoother our rotations. But with the change coming into this expansion, one of the change obviously being Convoke being a very strong cooldown, really assists Feral and performing well. And to say that during BFA there was a change to Feral Mastery, which we have never seen before at the beginning of the expansion. So moving from BFA into a new expansion where Mastery does affect now our Ferocious Bites, we can see that, hey, even though our rotation's not as smooth, we're not struggling as much. And it gives me a lot of hope, you guys, because like we said, you know, yes, we generally do not do as good, but with those changes, we are doing well, and we're going to only increase in popularity, increase in strength. Some of these specs may fall off, where we are going to continue to do well. So I'm very excited about that. So this is the very beginning of the expansion. Like I said, very good news for us. Let's go ahead and take a look at the end of this expansion, or this patch, you know, with the best item level, the best gear that we're looking at. Okay, so we can see some specs have increased. You know, I think some of these specs are also very gear dependent, especially Shadow. We know that that's a very gear dependent class as well. So we went down to maybe possibly a little bit lower than them, but we are still doing exceptionally well. Something I should touch on right here is you're going to see Feral Druid, Balance, and then Feral Owl Weave. I never touched on this previously, but a lot of you Feral Druids are probably wondering, what is Feral Owl Weaving? Preach did touch on this. I'm gonna kind of go over some information that he might not have been aware of. He kind of suggested that, hey, Feral Owl Weaving is just essentially Feral going into Boom Conform to Convoke. No offense to Preach, but that is not correct. So please don't do that. You want to stay in cat form for your convokes. Now, just a quick way to verify this simulation to make sure that you're not convoking during Moon Conform is we just check out our convoke. So we say, hey, we have a Ferocious Bite convoke. So that's good. You can look through here and you can say, hey, do I see any convokes that are Star Surge? Because that's a convoke that's an ability that only works in Boom Conform. And you're not going to see that. You see a Lunar Inspiration convoke. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to learn to know. And then we can further verify, but just say, hey, let's click on this Ferocious Bite Convoke, and let's see when it's happening. And you can see that, hey, these Ferocious Bite Convokes are happening at the beginning of the fight, you know, the middle of the fight 2 minutes later, and 2 minutes after that. So there is no way to bite in Moon Conform during Convoke, so we know that these are indeed cat forms. So please stay in cat form for your Convokes. That's very important. So let's touch on what is owl form. What is owl weaving as Feral Druid? Essentially, you take Heart of the Wild. Heart of the Wild is going to increase the damage of your chosen affinity, which is always Moon Conform for Feral and Raid and Dungeons or whatever. And essentially what you're doing is, as Feral, there are many times that you are starved of energy. How I like to use it in particular, now I'm not going to say there's a specific way to use it. Obviously, there's an optimal way. I think that the way that I use it's optimal. It's the way that I like to do it. But essentially, while you're in raid and you are energy starved, so let's say I go through my entire rotation, I get my 5 combo points, and at the end, when I finish that 5 combo points, I'm starved of energy. That is something that happens very often. That's what we call is Feral Druid. The pooling phase, that's what pooling means. If you ever see on here what is pooling, I guess they don't call it pooling anymore, they call it waiting. That's what pooling is right here. Now usually this pooling time will be bigger, but it's not as big anymore because we have something else we can do. Instead of just sitting, auto-attacking, waiting for that energy to regen, you pop Heart of the Wild, you do something else for that energy to regen. You can see here we're running Drought of Deep Focus, which is our best single target legendary. Which is nice about this is it also affects Moonfire. So there you go. You pop into Boomkin form, you Moonfire, you Sunfire, you Star Surge. Now, just keep in mind, get a weak core to track your Heart of the Wild buff. I believe it's 45 seconds or whatnot. Do not Star Surge when your Heart of the Wild is over, because you will hardcast Star Surge, and at that point, it's not worth it. So all these Star Surges are done during the Heart of the Wild time period. So let's say I get my 5 combo points, I'm energy starved, I pop Heart of the Wild, I Moonfire, Sunfire, Star Surge, and then I go back into Feral form. At that time, I probably have close to full energy. You bite, you do the rest of your rotation very quickly because you got the energy, and then you just continue repeat like that. If you are at a part that, hey, you know, I got that time where I need to regen energy, you pop into Moonkin form. Now, just to be advised, I do not run Drought of Deep Focus. This is a legendary that is purely single target. I run Apex Predator. During Apex Predator, you may find yourself at times where you're not energy starved because you get free bites, and free bites give you more energy. So this one, you're going to be more energy starved with the Drought of Deep Focus, and Apex Predator, you're generally going to have more energy coming in with those free bites. So less time that you're going to be in Moonkin form. As well, when you are popping in Moonkin form, I would not pop Moonfire. As you can see, as for Boomkin, Moonfire is the least of the damage. Let's make sure that's true. Here's Sunfire. Here's Moonfire. You see here it's the least of the damage. This is 2%. This is 2.6%. And then also just keep in mind, hey, this Moonfire is also buffed by 40%. So if you're not running this legendary, you don't Moonfire at all. You just Sunfire, Star Surge, and then you go back into cat form. Okay, so that was a lot more than I planned on talking for Owl Weaving, but there it is. If you're not running that, good luck with that. Sorry I didn't make a video prior. But anyways, let's talk about the future, what the predictions are with Feral. Well, Feral is going to only increase in strength, and it's going to continue to be stronger. What I do want to talk about, you guys, is moving on to future patches. I don't know when it's going to happen, and I don't know where I got this information, but somehow I got information that says, hey, in the future patches, sometime when, each class will be able to use more than one legendary. Okay? Now, what does that mean for Feral Druid? Well, that is very good for Feral Druid, because what we'll do is you probably will no longer using Drought of Deep Focus Legendary. Instead, you will use Apex Predator, which gives you free bites. And the reason free bites are important, because Ferocious Bite is so much of your damage, right? This is 30%. Usually with Apex Predator, it's close to like 45, 50% of your damage, overall damage. So anytime you get free bites, that's very, very good. You mix that Apex Predators with Circle of Life and Death, which makes your rips tick faster. If these rips are ticking faster, that means you're going to have more of a chance to get those free bite procs. So the synergy of those two are very strong, even though Apex Predator is a little bit below the damage of Drought of Deep Focus, and Circle of Life is nowhere near very good. Single target is Drought of Deep Focus, but mixing those two together is going to be the strongest single target damage that Feral can do moving forward when we can do those when we can use those two legendaries. Now, what does that mean for Feral? What that means is Feral will become the best spec in the game for funnel damage. Not only is it going to be very good for single targets because we get those free bites that are going to happen more consistently with Circle of Life and Death, but in AoE situations, we will be getting so many free bites that we can funnel all of those bites into one single target. Now, I watched a recent video with Max, the guild, the raid leader of Limit, and he went and talked about, hey, what are important specs to you for raiding at these high ends? And he valued very highly classes that had executes. Well, Feral unfortunately does not have any executes, so we are not going to be anywhere near that. Hopefully we can have some importance as far as raiding with very good damage, but a niche that we can fill is in fights that are needing funnel damage, because we will probably become the best spec competing with Frostmage, the best spec in the game for consistent funnel damage. So that is very exciting. Not only will we be doing very, very good damage, that is only going to continue to increase and continue to do well as the expansion continues and goes forth, but we will probably be the best spec in the game for funnel damage. Now, of course, it is dependent on the raid and the bosses. This particular raid, we haven't seen a lot of need for funnel damage. We haven't even seen a lot of AoE fights, so that's a bummer. But if we do see next raid where there are more AoE fights, more consistent fights, more need for funnel damage, we will be a very important class to have in the raid, possibly a class that we can see in higher guilds and progression guilds. So I'm very excited about that. I hope you guys are excited. Leave a like on the video. Hopefully this motivates you guys to play Feral Druid. It is a very fun spec to play. It is definitely an underdog that does not need to be an underdog. But that's it, you guys. I hope you enjoy the video. Take it easy. Peace.